not bad though.
It's not good either.
What do you mean it's not good?
You ready for this one, babe?
Ready?
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Word on the street.
What is it?
The word on the street is Christian couples, Christian marriages tend to have a lower divorce rate than non-Christian slash secular marriages.
I wonder why.
Well, in other words, let me say it like this. Christian marriages are lasting, while non-Christian marriages are ending miserably in divorce.
We did some research
We did.
and we found some findings.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go. Let's hear it.
A 14-year Harvard research study states that regular religious service attendance was associated with a 50% decrease in divorce rate. While other research shows that those who attend church regularly divorce less often than those who don't.
Wow. So people who attend church have a lower chance of getting divorced than non-Christians and people who doesn't attend church.
Yes.
Wow.
And I wonder, why is that?
Well, the question is, here's the question. I wrote this down. Is it about fear, faith, community, or is it something deeper?
With divorce rates on the rise, especially with the cultural shift away from religion, the question that's boggling my mind, and I wrote it down here, could it be that there is a link between high divorce rates and low church attendance?
In other words, our marriage is failing because people are turning away from God. That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a question to you guys.
Yeah.
Our marriage is failing because people are turning away from
Or
God.
because them not go church.
Exactly. So, we believe that this is important.
Yeah. So guys, stick around because we're going to unpack everything in this episode. We'll be diving into whether faith actually protects marriages or it just hides their problems.
All right, guys, stay tuned.
Our love isn't absent problems, but it sure is absent drama. You deserve this kind of love. Unfiltered Heart Talks with the Dawkins.
So babe, we're going to, there's so much research. I don't want to skip over them because we've done so much research. I just want to dive into them. And as we read, we unpack and just share the examples that we have.
Right. I think though that we can go easy on the research because I mean these are bright sparks, bright individuals.
Yeah.
They can do their own research.
That's right.
So let's just touch on a few of these research, see what they're saying, give that information, and then we can get into the meat of the matter. What does the first research say, babe?
So this one is Barna Research Group.
Mhm.
They did a landmark study in 2008 of nearly about 3,800 adults, the result of which remain today as an assumed benchmark for the view that there is no difference between those who identify as Christians and those who don't in the rate of divorce.
Okay, so they believe that both Christians and non-Christians have similar divorce rate.
Yes.
And I think I saw this research. It was a 2008 research. And what is important to note about this particular research is that Shanti, a Harvard social researcher, she found out, what's her name? Shanti Fieldam.
Fieldam.
Right. So she revisited this research and she found out that this research was not based on hard data. And that's something important for people to understand when it comes to research. This research was done in a survey style, which means when you're doing a survey research, people answer based on how they feel.
Yeah, it's not as strict as,
Right.
the,
And it's based on what is happening at the time.
at the time.
For example, if you should ask me if marriage is something that I enjoy, right? Do I love being married? For an example, based on what is happening in my marriage, my answer will be based on that. If my marriage is, sparkly, we're having great, amazing time, the sex is amazing, everything is nice, then I'm gonna answer, yeah, I'm definitely
Definitely
enjoying
having a
my
good
marriage,
time.
you know. But if my wife is probably treating me like crap, or something is not happening, then I'm going to answer based on that.
Yeah.
So she found out that this research was not based on hard data. And a lot of the individuals who answered, these are just people who identify as Christians, and not necessarily, maybe a lot of these people are not even practicing Christians. And that's important for people to know,
Yeah, there's a
that there's
difference.
there's a huge
Mhm.
difference between practicing Christians and people who identify as Christians.
That's
An
right.
identity is something that you assume, and we know what
Mhm.
that is,
Exactly.
but it doesn't mean that you're actually the thing that you assume to be. So just wanted to throw that out there. You can go ahead, babe, with the rest.
Partnering with George Barna, um, Miss Shanti, I believe it's a woman, re-examined the data pertaining to the divorce rate among
Right.
Christians and found that the numbers were based on survey takers,
Right,
as you
right. Which
just
is which is a,
mentioned.
which is a thing that
Yes. And
that I
it's down
just
right here. The
mentioned.
Christian category included people who profess a belief system, but did not live a committed
Committed
lifestyle.
lifestyle.
Exactly what you just
Right.
said a while ago.
Right. So
So,
there's a huge difference there.
yes.
And that's, I think, that 2008 data was the most prominent data
Mhm.
done on Christian marriages and non-Christian marriages. And then, of course, revisited by this Harvard social researcher who found that the claims were not accurate, being that they were based on
Just surveys and
just
not
surveys and not hard
hard.
data. And
Yeah.
it's just 3,800 people. Yeah.
How many people are on this planet?
Yeah, you know how many
Comment below
Christian
how many
that's
people are on this planet and
yeah,
how much like it's a large chunk of them that are actually Christians or
yeah.
who profess
Yeah, but
Christians. So
3,800
3,800 to
is
represent the whole
probably,
Christian community is not a
yeah,
lot.
it's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. And the research, again, it's important to note that the research was based only in the United States of
They
America.
think the
And
United States is
culture,
the world.
that's what a lot of people think. And cultural differences has a
Mhm.
lot to do with the outcome of your survey. I strongly believe that. Not of your survey, but of your research.
Mhm.
I would prefer to accept a research claim from a global research statistics than, and it depends. If I'm researching something about this particular country, then of course I want to look at the government data.
Exactly.
But if I'm going to research something like as global as this one, where it comes to Christian and non-Christian marriages, I
And
don't
divorce
want to
that's
look
just practiced all
right
over the
all over the
world.
world. I don't
Yeah.
want to look at a research
For
that with
3,800 people
3,800 people, and make a general
over a decade ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that is important to know about research, and looking at the different research. But let's get into this topic, babe.
Yes.
I want to know, and I know you guys want to know: is it faith, community, fear, or it's just a cover up for something
Mm.
deeper?
Yeah.
All right. So,
We were talking earlier and we were
mhm,
discussing, the different things that we think could be the contributing factor to why Christian marriages are prolonged versus non-Christian marriages. And one
mm,
of the things we touched on was covenant versus contract view of marriage. The
right,
covenant versus the contract view of marriage.
right,
And we know the covenant is we're going to stick this out hell or high water
right.
because we're going to work through this together.
Mm-hmm.
We're bringing our best to the table and we're going to hurdle everything together versus the contract view of marriage is if you breach then it's all, all
Right,
bids are off,
right,
all bets are off.
right. So the covenant, in other words, is a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
We make a commitment, and that is what marriage is. When
Yes.
you look at and we must always remember that marriage is a biblical institution, right? Marriage is a biblical institution, and so when you talk about marriage, you have to go back to the foundation or the roots. And the biblical meaning of marriage is that marriage is a commitment between a man and a
A
woman,
woman. Yeah.
a male and a female, Adam and Eve, right? It's not a partnership as modern day men and women like to call it. It's a commitment. When you make a commitment to something, you stick to it.
Mhm.
Again, stand on business,
Stand on
right? You
business.
stand on business. So while there might be breaches, you know, real life situation, there are potential challenges that will arise,
Mhm.
and people will say things to hurt their partner, or you might do something to hurt your partner. That breach doesn't mean divorce,
It does not mean divorce.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just again talking about the biblical definition of what marriage is.
Mm-hmm.
Partnership, on the other hand, or a contract marriage, is us saying, listen, we're going to get married, and this is the agreement,
This is the agreement.
right? So if you, if in the event you marry me rich, but I get, something unimaginable happens and I automatically get poor, then the contract is breached and you are free to go about your business.
Mm.
And that is how people view marriage,
Marriage
especially
today.
non-Christians.
Yeah.
That is how a lot of people, especially non-Christians, view marriage. So there's a difference there.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we believe might be one of the disparities
The disparity.
between Christian marriages lasting, prolonging, versus non-Christian marriages.
Okay, so spiritual mindset matters, in other words.
Right.
Mindset that keeps the union prolonging
Mm-hmm.
over
Mm-hmm.
decades and till death do us part.
Right.
Okay, but what?
Because
Mm-hmm,
yeah,
go
and,
ahead.
and and that because that's what Christians are taught
Yes.
within, the church.
Yeah.
We are taught that marriage is sacred. Marriage is a commitment. It's a covenant between God, yourself, and your partner.
Mhm.
Right. So because of those teachings and because of that mindset that is instilled within you, then that also contributes to you seeing your marriage as being sacred. And so it has it has the potential, that knowledge, that understanding has the potential to prolong your marriage.
That makes sense because a lot of people apply scripture as
Hmm.
we're talking about practicing Christians.
Right.
They apply scripture, if somebody sins against you, in the case of the biggest example, infidelity,
Hmm.
you should forgive them because guess what? Just like the scripture says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who
Who trespass
trespass
against
against
us.
us. So we're
Hmm.
taught that, hey, if you do not forgive anybody, it doesn't even have to be your spouse,
Right.
you're not going to be forgiven by God. And nobody wants to be in the situation where you're not being forgiven by God. So,
Hmm.
you know, if you don't forgive your spouse, God is not going to forgive you. So
Yeah.
so that's a meant like a I want to use the word stronghold,
Hmm.
but that's a stronghold. No, that sounds like a negative word. That is one of the principles, one of the scriptures that guide Christian couples and keeps marriages going. And then the other one, turn the other cheek. you know
Hmm.
if somebody does something to hurt you, just carry on.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. There's a lot of
And it's
things.
very noble. It's
Hmm.
very noble.
But the thing is, how practical is it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you apply that to real life situation, real life scenario, how applicable does that become? How realistic does it become? How practical does it become? That's a question. But that's a question for you guys. All
Mm-hmm.
right. All right. So you also mentioned about the community,
Yes.
right? Behind
The support
the
system.
support system behind a Christian couple. And that's another factor that adds to the longevity of marriages
Mm-hmm.
within Christendom, you know. Because, of course, when you are getting married, one would think that you are getting married only to your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
But we know But when you married in a church, you married
You married
everybody.
everybody. And, the pastor, the
You
youth
married
pastor,
everybody.
everybody.
And as soon as you married, when you go have
When children them come.
when you having
Yes. So they're
children.
very invested.
Yes,
And
church
it's good to
people.
have that kind of support,
Mm-hmm.
especially if
Mm-hmm.
you're part of an organization that, wants to see you do well.
Right.
That is good. And I believe every couple needs that support system. And that, as you said, that is one of the reasons that a lot of Christian couples stay together. They
Mm-hmm.
have somebody, a community to rock back
Right.
on,
Right. Who
versus
gives them
a
support?
who gives them support,
Which
versus
is
a
good and bad.
non-Christian. It is good and bad.
Right.
Versus a non-Christian couple, they're going through their hell. They have to just battle it alone. They have nobody to talk to. There's no outlet. There's no brother James to pray for you, or sister, or elder so and so to pray
Right.
for you. So
Mm-hmm.
you're literally battling this alone, and you have no higher standard by which you live by,
Right. Right.
or set of rules by which you live by. So when the poop hits the fan, it just gets real bad.
Yeah. And you know, as we look at those, as we look at some of the factors that contribute to the longevity of Christian marriages, is that one, they well, number one, Christians date with a purpose.
Yeah, they're more intentional
They're more
dating.
intentional about
Yes.
dating, right? You have a lot of Christian young men and women who are saying that, listen, if you are not a Christian, I'm not going to date you. If you're not
Standards.
interested in marriage, I'm not going to
Gonna
date
date you.
you. If you're a club girl, you're a club
Guy
guy,
or
I'm not
party
going to
animal. I'm
date
not
you.
gonna date you.
So there's a lot of standards and values and boundaries that are set for Christian couples when they date. So, and again, when it comes to cohabitation, a lot of Christians are not going to live with someone who they are not married to. So there are certain practices that are put in place, boundaries that are established when it comes to Christian dating, and not to mention also the premarital counseling that
Yes.
goes into marriage.
Yes.
You know, so when you look at a lot of these things, you can understand the level of preparation and sincerity that is put into the dating phase, the courting phase, leading all the way up to the marriage. There are
Yes.
people invested, the community is invested, the church, the congregation is invested.
Mhm.
The principles that are instilled within you, the spiritual mindset that is developed through Christian teachings help in the selection of partners. And
Mhm.
I think we need to,
That needs to be done better. Like I don't even think that there's a ministry for that. There
for what
needs
exactly?
if I were to speak to any church board, I would let them know, hey, there, and maybe, couples ministries,
Hmm.
people, maybe
Yeah, they do have
that's
couples ministry.
and
Some
maybe that's
church
what they do. I'm
may
not sure.
focus on it more than others,
Yeah.
though.
So so simply put, faith-driven couples are more deliberate in their choices, which
Right.
is a major factor which lessens the divorce rate in the Christian community.
But here's the drawback to that.
Mhm.
Does having the spiritual mindset and the spiritual lessons being instilled within you,
Mm.
does it always guarantee a positive outcome? The outcomes are not
Absolutely not.
always
We're in
positive.
a fallen world.
Right.
That's the
And,
easiest thing to say, but that's the truth.
and that's the truth.
Mm.
And especially when you look at over spiritual person, people who are, you know,
Overly zealous, overly spiritual.
and nothing is wrong with
Spiritual.
being spiritual, and
But
nothing is
anything
wrong
in
with
excess is
having
too is bad.
all things must be
Extremism.
temperate,
Temperate.
extremism. So a lot of times what I see firsthand, heard also, is people who are overly spiritual, they tend to make wrong selection in the choices of partners.
Absolutely.
And what I mean by that is that a lot of these individuals don't look at the selection of partner in the practical sense.
Oh wow.
They don't look at the selection of partner in the realistic sense. They look at it in the spiritual realm.
And you and I both have experience in that
Right,
area.
right.
Yes.
And oftentimes, when you are selecting your partner based on what you perceive or what you believe God is saying to you, what I've seen firsthand is 9 times out of 10, or I would say 9.9 times out of 10 is not God.
Yeah.
It's not God
Over
speaking to you. It's
spiritualization.
not God telling you that this is the person for you. And mind you, some of the situations, and we have spoken about this on the podcast before, some of the situations that I have seen where people are saying, oh, God has selected this particular one for me.
And I had a dream.
It is so
Do you
messy.
remember that post that we did? I said, it's one of those posts that do not be easily swayed by people who are overly spiritual and believe that God has sent you
Mm-hmm.
and you are the handpicked partner for them. Most times people like those, they are high on something. And I'm not going to try to bust anybody's bubble, but there is a phase that you go through as a new believer, where you're so excited, you're so ramped up, you're so, you know, enthusiastic to an almost an unhealthy extreme.
Right.
So to make any form of, I don't believe that if anyone is a new believer, I believe it's the one time for that year, stay away from
Date.
relationship and dating, because you're gonna your sincerity is going to be your greatest weakness.
Right. But that's the thing, and it's sad that a lot of church, I'm not saying no church does this. Of course, there's always that 1% in
Exceptions.
everything, right? But most churches, I don't know, it seems like most churches has abandoned the what do you call it? The that couple session that we used to have, the rap session in church, and we talk about dating and relationship. But one of the things that guided me was the knowledge that I learned about how to select a partner. And
Ooh,
mind you, it wasn't
that is
enough.
vital.
But it is vital. But the sad part about it is that that program ran for a few months, and then the pastor left, and the pastor who replaced him, you know, that
He didn't
wasn't that
carry it
wasn't that
on.
wasn't on his agenda.
Agenda, okay.
So that's the thing. Like, these things need to be consistent right across the board with every pastor that comes. They need to know that this is a program that we have in the church. It is an established program, and any pastor that replaces the next must carry it through.
It should be a priority
It
because
should be
we
a
all
priority,
have
you know
relationship with
and that
somebody,
right, and
you
that's
know?
where I learned about the difference with dating and courtship.
Hmm.
What you have now is that people are selecting partners based on dating. It's not based on
I
courting
don't even think
anymore.
people are dating,
Probably not,
because
probably not,
dating is,
and
as I
that's the
mentioned
thing too.
before, it's the process of getting to know multiple people
Mm-hmm.
before you narrow it down
Yeah.
so you can enter the
But
courtship
you know what's
phase.
crazy?
What's crazy? What?
If a girl should meet a guy and tells him, hey, I'm just dating right now. So we can hang out, we can get to know each other, but just know that I'm seeing this guy, that guy over there,
It'd be a
Jeffrey.
problematic
It will
thing.
be a problematic. The guy would automatically assume that she's a
A
whore,
whore. But
you know.
I think there's a way to go about it. I think there's a way to go about it. If I were that young woman,
Mm-hmm.
I would be discreet about it. First of all, you would know that I'm a cut above the rest because one, I'm not meeting you in any secluded area. We're not kissing. We're not doing anything too intimate that could lead to sex.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that, hey, this is our minds working. I'm trying to see how your mind works. You're trying to see how my mind works. So a guy like that, even if he sees her talking to somebody else, he can't feel anyway. I
Right.
think that level of jealousy and that level of insecurity and that level of territorialness comes about when a woman opens up herself to any form of intimate, any form of surface level sexual intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
that that is going to get warrant the guy to feel as though she should not be even talking to anybody on the side. But I think dating needs to be redefined in this culture. I just think people are just sleeping together. They're just sleeping together. If it was good, we might see each other next time. Or if it was not, it's not even, it's not dating. It's not dating.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm thinking, shouldn't that be known
What?
to, like, for example, if I was dating within the biblical sense
Mhm.
and I'm talking to this girl, getting to know her. Like I remember when I just learned about dating, I was dating in the church. I was letting girls know that, hey, this is not a relationship. We're not courting. I'm not ready for marriage.
Playa. They probably thought you were playing around.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
there
just
is a
like how if a
negative
woman says,
connotation. There is a
if a woman
negative
said to a
connotation
man,
attached
I'm
to,
just dating multiple people, she's
right.
probably prostituting herself.
Exactly. And the guys up is considered by societal standards and norm as a playboy.
Mhm.
you know. But at the end of the day, if this was something being taught consistently in every synagogue or congregation that was out there, then people within the Christian communities would know that there is a disparity between dating
And
and
courtship.
courtship.
Yeah.
And so when the guy see the girl that he likes talking to multiple other guy, and I mean literal talking,
Talking.
right?
Yeah.
Literally talking, hanging out
Conversation.
as friends,
Hmm.
right? Having conversations and getting to know different people's likes and dislike, and before you narrow it down, then he would understand based on the lessons that he learned that she's just getting to know people.
Yeah,
You know,
and if he likes her enough, he's just hoping that I'll be the
she
candidate
yeah
she
she
chooses.
she chooses,
We should treat
and
dating
vice
like a
versa. The
job
girl, yeah,
interview.
dating should be an interview.
People need to start running background checks,
I'm
asking
telling you.
questions. What was your relationship history? What's your credit score? What's your work history? Like, if I could,
The
if I
credit
could
score
give
is crazy.
crazy. Are we gonna buy a home together? Are we gonna start a business? Are
In
you gonna?
dating though,
Well, we need to know that. Are you good? Like,
well,
I think
I
it's
don't
not.
know.
I
Guys,
don't
tell
think.
us what you think about
Hey,
asking about the credit score
yeah,
in the dating
in the
phase.
dating phase, because the thing is, when I in the past when I did job interviews or applications for jobs, every last one of them, at some point, and I got the job, ran a background check on me, or even before they ran a background check on me.
Right.
Even before hiring you,
Mm-hmm.
they run a background check. And even if they never hire you, they would have still done that background check. What
Baby, you
does it
want some more?
Yeah, please. What does it say about us?
Hold on. Let me put this thing down.
You don't have any insurance
Mm.
on this person. You better ensure that this relationship that you're entering into, or this person that you are considering,
Mm-hmm.
who is vying for your attention as a lifelong partner, is worthy of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Blood work. You
Yeah.
need to check blood work. You need to check
Yeah.
credit
That's
score.
important. That's
You need to check
important.
all those
Mm-hmm.
things.
I
It's
think
it's really
there's a lot of
important.
questions that
It's
needs to be
important.
asked, and you're right.
There are
You
layers
know,
to it in the
there
dating
of
phase.
course there are layers to it. There's a lot of questions that needs to be asked. A lot of questions.
Guys, I just got a great idea. Let us know if you'd like us to create a template, a free download template of dating tips and dating questions, questions that we'd recommend that you ask in the dating process
Mm.
by tier. So in the dating, in like when
The
it's
first
light and
phase,
fluttery, the first
yeah,
place could be like, what's your favorite color? Where do you go to school? Second phase could be, um, you know, past relationships. And the third phase could be, let's go get a blood work done, this, that, and this, done. And then we enter the courtship.
right.
I don't know. I'm just giving it like, are you guys interested in that?
Well,
Because we could
that's. I
definitely
think
do
that.
something like
Yeah, I
that.
think that's
There are
that's.
different tiers in
Yeah,
dating
I think
before entering
definitely
to
before.
courtship.
You're right. Because in the dating phase, you are really narrowing down your
Yes.
options.
So ask these to all these people, all the
Right.
girls, all the guys.
Honestly, when I was in the dating world and I saw girls like talking to multiple guys, it was always a negative connotation in my mind that, she's probably a playgirl. She's probably a, you know, I never felt like because I understand,
As long
yo.
as none of the guys could come walk step to you and say, "Yeah, I got her.
Right,
She's
right.
good."
Yeah. But that's just what my
What we've been programmed
perception
to think.
to think, especially in a culture like this. Probably in our culture it might be different because, one and two people know say boy, me used to go church and they used to teach us the difference about dating and courtship. And we
Hmm.
understand what that looks like.
Yeah,
But in this particular culture,
it's not even.
there's no courtship.
You can
It's a
just
one night stand.
never see you again. I'm flying out.
Yeah, talk
Never.
about never see you again. It's a one night stand and it enters into a full blown committed relationship.
Relationship. Oh
It's somebody
wow,
that you don't know, you know nothing about.
that's
You know,
crazy. That's
that's how
like
a lot of relationships are formed within this particular culture from one night
one night
stand.
stand.
And that's why you have so many problems within these relationships. And that's why, because there was no process in dating when it comes to breaking up,
Hmm.
people don't really take the time out to understand or to try to work through things. As soon
Hmm.
as heads start bump together,
Hmm.
I'm out,
Oh
you know,
wow. And I
because
see why the rates are higher
mm-hmm,
for non-Christian couples
non
because a Christian
Christians,
couple, a practicing Christian couple is not going to subscribe to the one night stand thing at all.
that
At
again,
all. But a
there's going to be a
non-Christian
process.
exactly, but a
Mm-hmm.
non-Christian couple would decide, okay, we're gonna go to the club, we got drunk, we had sex, I feel bad, let's just make this into a relationship.
Right,
Wow.
right,
Wow.
right.
We need to I'm thinking tonight's discussion could be about one night stands and
Mm.
how relationships built on one night stand,
And how
how they
negative
fare.
that
Like,
that yeah.
you know?
And again, guys, we go TikTok live. We started last Saturday, but we are going live on TikTok every Saturday night at 8. What's the time?
8 p.m.
Central?
Central Standard Time.
Yeah.
And our handle is Unfiltered Heart Talks. TikTok Live, Unfiltered Heart Talks. 8 p.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday night.
Right. And let's take the cat out the bag. Let's take the cat out the bag. All right. So here's the thing. One of the factors in a lower divorce rate in Christian marriages as well stems from the fact that divorce is stigmatized
Mm-hmm.
within the church. If you get divorced as a Christian, it is up to Christians, to the sinners, saved by grace, you know, to imperfect people. It is the unpardonable sin. That is how the community looks at divorce. It is the worst thing that you can do. And so divorce is looked at in a negative way within the church. And I think that is also one of the contributing factors why a lot of people choose to stick it out,
Mm.
take the beating, take the abuse.
Take the lack of upward mobility, take everything. Because it's not always abuse.
Mm-hmm.
It's stagnation. It's somebody not willing to grow, not willing to change,
Right.
but I don't know any other group, religious group, that is more cockatoo than Christians. The Hindus have like a humble thing going.
Mm-hmm.
The Muslims, they have a humble thing going, but Christians, bougie.
Yeah.
Bougie. So
Yeah.
we want to always look like we got it going on,
Yeah.
even if we don't. And that is either based on pride or, based on, scripture
It
turn the
it
other cheek.
it's based, yes, and it's also based on the fact that people, there's this one save always save
Mhm.
mindset that a lot of people have. And yes, once you are accepted by Christ, once you give your life to Christ, you are saved. And the process of sanctification is taking place when you accept, you get baptized, you are sanctified, you're set
Mhm.
apart, and then you go through the process of justification.
Mhm.
You go through the process of getting rid of the dirty habits, the porn addiction, the masturbation, the whoredom, all of these not nasty behavior. until the day of glorification, which is the final step. But a lot of people believe, and I think within the Christian community, a lot of people believe in this mindset: once saved, always saved, meaning that once I'm saved, I'm never going to be lost. So I can do whatever I want and God will forgive me. But that's not how it works, because there is something called uh, se- not sincerity is not the word that I'm looking for. But when you ask for forgiveness, God is
Grace,
expecting for us to be sincere
sincere.
in what we're asking for. So if every day you go get up and you commit the same type of sin or do the same thing, and you're just going to run to God every single time, that's not what God is looking for.
You must have heard us speak about one or both of these books in one of our videos. So, this is a chance to grab this book. These two books, What Makes Love Last and The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, have been very transformative in our relationship. We have learned so many valuable lessons that we are even practicing to this day, and we're sharing on this platform. I remember my husband shared with me the whole idea of
Defensive listening. And that's just one aspect of the myriad of valuable lessons that are in both of these books.
If you ever decide to get one of these books, whether married or single or in the courting phase or even dating, I'd recommend you get What Makes Love Last. What Makes Love Last is a very insightful read. It takes you through the process where Dr. Gottman studies couples in a love lab. If you like the sound of that, you will love the scenarios.
Right. These are amazing books. As we said, they have transformed our marriage. And if you're married or thinking about getting married, also grab a copy of The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Last. Yeah. It's the same research done in his love lab. And these scenarios, these real life situations that he goes through with the different challenges and the different outcomes are amazing. We want to let you know also that if you do decide to grab any or both of these copies from our link on YouTube in our description box, we will receive a commission from any purchases. So, guys, go ahead and grab this book. These books will truly transform your marriage, your relationship, and your entire mindset when it comes to relationship and marriage.
And if you're not a reader, we do have the Kindle option as well on Amazon. You can also grab the Kindle option of the book. They're really nice to listen to. We started out by actually listening to the books before we grabbed the physical copies. And I must tell you, if I am daydreaming, my mind comes right to the book. It's very entertaining and you will enjoy the read even if you pick up the physical copy. So grab yourself one of these books and start reading. Now back to the video.
It's known different from the Israelites who used to commit sin and offer the blood sacrifice. And God says, listen, this blood sacrifice thing, it's not important to me. Your heart is more important. So I think because of that mindset, a lot of Christians live with this notion that I will be able to do anything and still be saved. And so, whereas in the Muslim communities, this is just my assumption, where there is an actual punishment, a literal punishment for sin, where it's not going to be a thing, the Old Testament type. It's not going to be a thing where we're going to wait until Jesus come to give you that punishment. Means say, if the man
And the rod on
if the man assumes something that he's not, then he's going to be treated as how they treat them in the Old Testament, right? So in those communities, there are stricter protocols in place for sin, whereas in Christian community,
grace is just abused.
yes,
Center.
grace is abuse, and I think that's the mindset behind it. But
Well,
but you want to go ahead?
yeah. While we're having this discussion, the question came to my mind.
Mhm.
I know that there are a lot of people who are going to say, I don't identify as Christian.
Right.
I'm what you'd consider secular, but I have a great marriage and it's working out for us. So my question is, what keeps secular couples from getting divorced if their anchor is not scripture or the Christian way? What are those anchors that keep them staying together? Because sometimes I believe, based on what I've observed,
Mhm.
that some secular couples are more devoted and believe that marriage is more of a covenant than some
Christian
Christians.
couples.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you are right. I'm not saying, and again, we were not saying from the beginning that Christian couples, that secular couples don't have
Hmm.
um, longevity in their marriage. We were saying, based on statistics, that Christian couples tend to have
Lower
a
divorce
lower
rate.
divorce rate than secular couples. So, of
Yeah.
course, there are secular couples who have long lasting
What do you
relationships.
think is that anchors them and keeps them
Um,
together?
despite the fact that a lot of people don't go to church or subscribe to this notion of church going every Saturday or every Sunday or going to the mosque every Friday, there's a lot of them who still believes in God.
Hmm.
And a lot
So
of,
God is the anchor.
I think for a lot of them,
They
God is
believe
the
in
anchor.
God.
It's to
Hmm.
believe in God, is those morals that were instilled within them from a youth. A lot of people, even some people who becomes agnostic or becomes atheists, the Christian principles were instilled within them from a youth.
Or some people just, watch their parents. Their parents never got divorced, so
Right.
that's just not
And they
something that
look at the
they.
morals and values.
Yes.
And despite the fact that they might not believe, the reality is that their parents' morals and values came from
Influence them.
somewhere and it
Yeah.
influenced them.
Yes.
And of course we know where that comes from. So that's one thing that I would say that keeps them. But going back to the negative connotation that is attached to divorce in the church,
Hmm.
that's one of the things where people believe that once you get divorced, you know, you are you have committed the worst atrocity in the entire
An
human
atrocity.
race.
You've committed an
Right.
atrocity.
And that is one of the reasons. I think that is one of the main reasons why a lot of people, a lot of Christians stay in abusive marriages, where, partner is cheating on you, elder sleep with elder, pastor sleep with elder, pastor sleep with church member. A lot of these things, and people stay not because it is the right thing to do, but because the church teaches God hates divorce. And so
Stick it out.
stick it out, even though you are getting abused, stick it out, and
And
it
and
will all work
and it
out.
will
But
all work out. And
mhm,
I think that the church has, based on the morals, based on the scripture and the law that is
this is
given.
better. Sorry, babe.
It's better, yeah.
Hmm.
Based on the law that's given in scripture,
Right.
it's a noble thing to want to stick it out. But I think, and this is something that we discussed heavily. We were very, I saw how your eyes lit up and I lit up too.
Hmm.
We are not anti the church and pastors and teachers saying stick it out,
No,
but
we're not.
we are for people bringing their best to the table. We say that almost on every podcast. You're bringing your best to the table. Your partner is bringing their best to the table, so you can hold hands when you get to those crossroads. A lot of times, the people in church, the pastors, the elders, the
Hmm.
teachers, they're saying to stick it out just because God hates divorce,
Right.
but they're
Which he
not
does.
focusing, which he does, but they're
Hmm.
not focusing on the heart issue. What is
Right.
the issue?
Right.
If the woman is abusive or the man is abusive, let's tackle that at its core. Yes, we want to stay together, but I do not believe God is going to be okay with an abusive relationship.
He's not
God
okay with that.
wants to get we see the story when the woman was brought to be stoned,
Hmm.
and after he's done with most of the people he healed, he said go and sin no more.
Right.
So it's not a, oh well, just stick it out because God hates divorce.
Right.
It's, what is the problem? Let's
Right.
dissect it. Let's
Hmm.
get professionals in to analyze it. Let's work through it so you
Right.
can walk together as one again.
And that is something that is not done.
It's not done.
And why somebody is gonna say, "Oh, of course they do that in church." Who does it?
The
The
pastors,
pastor
they're
does
not
it.
trained
How many of your
psychologists.
pastors are trained professionals, trained therapists, trained psychologists
How
who
many?
are equipped to handle marital counseling?
Unless your pastor is Dr. Sharon O'Connor, who is a lawyer, a
Psychologists.
psychologist, and a pastor, you should be seeing
Right.
someone who's trained to handle those things. And I know some spiritual person going to come on and say,
Oh,
God has
God can,
blessed and
yeah.
God can speak through
Yeah.
pastor and God can do this. God has given everyone their own gifts.
E-
Go to them.
Exactly.
Not
Exactly.
every pastor can sing.
Right.
Pastor leaves it up to the choir and the people who can sing to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And if every first elder, not every pastor wife or first lady can cook. So we have different gifts and different strengths. And I believe we put everything on the pastor.
Right.
Pastor should,
No, I
pastor,
think
what pastor
sometimes,
does, with all due
yeah,
respect, pastor, stick it out.
yeah,
That is not enough. What is the issue? Let us get to the heart
right,
of the issue professionally and then stick it out.
right. I don't think that it's people putting everything on the pastors. I think that some
They just
pastors,
want to.
or most pastors and
Mhm.
most elders, just want to be the one to get it done. The reality is, I've seen cases firsthand where children are caught having sex,
Mm.
you know, and the first elder, who is a teacher, wants to offer counseling to this young lady to help her, manage whatever she's going through. And my understanding is, I'm a teacher, yes, but I'm also a spiritual person. So God will help me to help you. People don't understand. And I had to say to the elder, I said, look, you have someone here who is a trained counselor. That's what they went to university for, right? Their main job is dealing with children who are going through the same problems, right?
Mhm.
So I'm saying that you can't have someone who is disqualified
And you're gonna pick up the
and
mantle
you're
to do
going
it
to,
yourself.
yeah, I said, let this person take the responsibility to do it, and that is the problem that I see where, let me tell you something, the church has a lot of resources at their disposal. And when I talk about resources, I'm talking about there are so many trained professionals in the
Nutritionists,
church,
psychologists,
so many,
engineers,
you
you
know
know.
but a lot of times the people who, and I think that's something that I see even within our government, like the finance minister is in charge of agriculture.
Hmm.
you know Canada is
The
one of the
finance
only
minister
countries
has a
where,
green thumb.
yeah, Canada is the only country, that I know of so far. Maybe there are others who, in order for you to become a minister of something, you have to be trained in that particular field, right? And I'm just saying that a lot of times pastors want to take up the responsibility of doing counseling, even premarital counseling. What do you learn in premarital counseling? Of course, um,
They'll just give
you
you
learn about the
scenarios to like,
finances, you
yeah,
go through
whose
scenarios,
role is
you
this,
know. But there are so many
expectations.
people who work within these conferences, who work within these headquarters, who work within these congregation, who that is their main job. That is and
Employ them to do that.
if you cannot find one in the church in your particular local district, I bet you there is one. Go up a little bit more in the hierarchy, and you might find somebody who is
In the
able to do that.
hierarchy. That's
you
another
know?
messy thing. But
Yeah.
transitioning, I have
Mm-hmm.
a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is lower divorce rates always a sign of healthier marriages? I know that's an obvious no,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to know: is lower divorce rates, in your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
signs of healthier marriages?
Or are some couples just?
Or are some couples just staying together for appearance sake?
I think a lot of couples are staying together for appearance sake. They want to avoid the shame from the Christian community, from the congregation, from the church. And that shame is, if you get divorced, then you are going to be looked at as the worst sinner we have seen since the inception of sin, right?
Mm.
A lot of people want to avoid that shame. Also, I think a lot of people, because take it from me, personal experience, um, it wasn't necessarily to avoid shame. It was just like, what are these people gonna think? You know? So a lot of people go through that same internal struggle where they want to get divorced. They believe within themselves that, listen, I did not go through the process properly. The
That's right.
person who I'm with is not the suitable partner God has designed for me. My decision was not based on on the biblical principles that were instilled within
In its
me
entirety.
in its entirety,
Mhm.
right? It was based on my own belief that this person
Is
was the
spiritual
right
and that's it.
person for me, or
Mhm.
this person has good character, so it means that this person is for me, you know? And people recognize that people can see how detrimental their marriage can become throughout the years, both for themselves and for their spouses. And they might believe that, listen, God hates divorce, but if I don't do this, then both of us are going to be miserable for the rest of our life. You're
Yeah.
going to hate me. I'm going to hate you. I'm going to be doing things that I know that God doesn't want me to do. You're
Mhm.
going, you know, but for the sake of
Our community.
our
Let's
community.
keep it on the up and up.
Yeah,
And
so it's not necessarily because of a healthier marriage.
mhm.
I believe that a lot of it has to do with, the shame
So
from the community.
the community does make a huge difference.
The
So
community
it
does.
can keep you together because
Mm-hmm.
of the shame of knowing that, you're going to get divorced, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody views divorce as the worst thing, since the inception of sin, as you said. So it does add pressure.
It adds pressure. Yeah.
Good pressure and
And
bad
bad.
pressure.
Yeah, it can be negative, and it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, because
Double-edged
the
sword.
good pressure is, you're accountable. If a couple like us,
Mm-hmm.
we're accountable to our church family. It's good to have like an outlet, not necessarily to tell your business, but an extracurricular activity outside of your regular everyday editing,
Right.
9 to 5,
Doing the
doing
yeah, doing
work,
YouTube
YouTube.
and stuff like
So
that.
it's good to have that. So that's the good pressure, the
Right.
good pressure.
Right.
The bad pressure is, I'm in this. I know I shouldn't be in this, but I'm going to stick it out because these people are going to put my head on a on a pike if
Mm-hmm.
I choose. Like, well, not literally, but they're going to literally, not literally, but they're going to put my head on a pike because
Yeah.
their tongues are going to be wagging. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be scandal
Mm-hmm.
going all over the church because how dare she, or
Oh,
how
yeah.
dare he get
Yeah.
divorced?
Mm-hmm.
So there's pressure, um, and it can be good
And it
or
can be
bad.
bad.
Premarital counseling.
And okay, go ahead and premarital counseling.
Premarital counseling. So we've already touched on premarital counseling a
We did
little
a
bit.
little bit, a little bit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Many churches require and strongly encourage premarital
Premarital
counseling, as we
counseling, yeah.
know.
That is an
Um,
added factor as well.
mhm.
But a question I wanted to there's a question I wrote here,
Yeah.
and this is to our community.
Okay.
Do you think having a community around your marriage makes a real difference? Or
Does it just add pressure?
is it something that just adds pressure?
Yeah.
So that's the question. Having the community, is it a positive or a negative, or is it both?
I think it's both.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what boat you're in. If you're in a stable boat where it's just an average relationship, the problems, you have problems but you don't have drama, then you can find support, and you can also find pressure,
Right,
negative pressure.
right,
But
right.
if it's and it's also depending, because a lot of people, I feel like there's gonna be someone who finds their way in our comment section somewhere, either on TikTok or on YouTube. They're gonna say, "Well, I'm a part of a really nice community, and I feel very loved, and they're very supportive. I've had children out of wedlock, and they were supportive. I've been married and divorced, and they've been." Every church, every congregation is different. So I'm not saying this is your situation. However, a lot of people remember that one time we did that one video about church people must stop,
Yeah,
and that
this must
went
stop.
viral.
It did.
It went viral because people
A lot of
say,
people could
"Oh, this,
identify with.
when these
Mhm.
people, the church people, were talking about me, this, that, that, that." So every church is different.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
depends, as I said, it depends on the boat that you're in.
Yeah.
What's
It
your
depends
unique
on the community.
situation? What's your community like? It might be a pressure, or it just might be genuine,
Hmm.
solid support.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But and that is true, babe. Just to, you know, add to that.
Mhm.
But when it comes to, I wanted to talk about, well, honestly, we have spoken a little bit about premarital counseling, and we know that the church usually strongly encourages premarital counseling
What was your
before
experience
marriage.
like with premarital counseling? Is it something, what was your experience like? Is it something that you would recommend? Do you think, and three, do you think it helps in any way
All right.
to prolong
For
or
someone, all right, most pastors have a minor, not all. Most pastors have a minor in
in counseling?
counseling.
Mhm.
For others, they might have a course. They did a course in counseling. A minor in counseling is not enough for you to offer counseling to anybody,
I agree.
you know. So this is what I will say from experience. I don't believe that anybody should go to their pastor for marital counseling, premarital counseling. I do not believe that. And a lot of pastors will disagree, but unless you are someone who is licensed to carry out the functions of counseling, marital counseling, I don't think that
Yeah, especially
you
when it comes
should.
to marital problems,
Because
and
there
issues like
there
that.
there is a lot to marriage than just understanding about
Finances, who takes
finances
out the trash, who
and
cooks
yeah,
on Sunday
there's
night,
way more to marriage.
Sunday.
I think one of the greatest thing when I was getting married, and I shared the story in why did we get married, why did I get divorced. um One of the greatest thing that I saw was there was a pastor who could recognize that this young man is not ready.
Mm, God
You
bless his
know,
heart.
God bless his heart. And I can probably say his name, Pastor Hay. Um, I've known Pastor Hay from like I was a youth, a little boy, and he was the pastor, and that was the pastor who would take out his belt and spank you. And he didn't care whose child is this. He's gonna get a spanking because he's doing something that he's not supposed to be doing, or
Mm,
she.
old
That
school.
that was the community pastor, and when I remember when I called him because he is highly respected among pastors within the Seventh Day Adventist Church, and I remember when I became a Seventh Day Adventist, and I asked him to counsel me, and he asked me questions like, "How far along are you in your program?" I said, "I'm in what I was 1.5 years. Um, do you have a job now?" And those are the questions that he asked. And he said, "Look, you're not ready.
You're not ready.
You're not ready." And I was
And
upset.
he was honest.
And he was honest, and he was truthful in his response. How many pastors are telling people or even asking those questions?
They're not. They're
I
just willing to go ahead and do
Yeah, and I
counseling.
remember when I even went to, there's two pastors, and mind you, honestly, the other pastor who actually did the counseling, like hands down, he's a role model. That
Yes.
man shared with me that he has only had sex with two women in his entire life, and it was his first wife who passed, God bless her soul, and his second wife who he's now married to. So he's a role model. But at the end of the day, I wish he had told me from the get-go that, listen, you're not ready, like Pastor
Like the
Hay
other
did.
pastor.
But the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of pastors will see and recognize the reality of your situation, and they will not, be brutally honest with you to say to you that, look, you're not ready.
Do you think it's a numbers thing, a tie thing?
It's a numbers thing.
It's a
I
numbers thing.
think for a lot of pastors, it's just a numbers thing. I don't think that there's a serious investment, and this is not for all
That's not
pastors,
for every pastor.
but for most of them, it's a job. That's
Yes.
what it is. It's not a calling. For most pastors, it's a job. I went to school with many of these guys who are now pastors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when I say it's a job, it's a job.
Just trying to get the
You know,
discount.
it's just listen, I've spent all of this money to do this degree, millions of dollars to do this degree, and I can't do any other thing but to preach.
It's like spiritual
So
minute, spiritual military.
yeah,
Spiritual
yeah,
military. Are you
yeah.
gonna get the
You
same?
get a degree,
Somewhat.
and the only place you can work with it is in the military. I don't like the military, but guess what? I need to take care of my family, and that's a mindset behind a lot of pastors. And who wants to deny it can deny it. God is going to deal with you, you know. But for a lot of them, it's a numbers thing, and that is why I am highly discouraging young people, young Christians. If you're serious about marriage, go to someone who is qualified,
Yeah.
not spiritually qualified, but someone who has the knowledge and someone who is also spiritual, who
You can
will be
have both.
brutal,
You can have both.
because you have people as well who they're counselors and they will come to you and tell you, oh, they will not do a good job because they base everything on spirituality. So you need someone who is balanced, who is trained, or if that's the case, go to a secular one
It. I'm telling you, I would
because
even recommend that.
you might stand a better chance getting the
A
raw,
thorough
unfiltered
assessment.
truth and a thorough assessment than even someone who is spiritual.
Yeah.
But I think that the hierarchy of the church needs to start telling people who are not ready, who are not fit,
They're not gonna
that
do
you're
it.
not ready.
No, you're not
They're
ready.
not going to do it.
They're not
You
gonna do it.
know,
I know.
and that's the sad part. You know, but I
But
wish,
that's why young people
yeah, I wish those pastors had told me that, hey, and it's not a blame thing.
is no. So we
It's
want
not
to
a
take
blame thing.
accountability for the
Of
choices we've
course, I
actually
made
made.
that
Yeah.
choice, you know, but it's just what the point I'm making is that if more pastors were brutally honest with
And just
members
stood
who
up
want,
strong. I'm not going to marry
a lot
you
of people wouldn't
because
get married.
like my like you could even say my discerning spirit says you're not matched up with this person and I'm not
Hmm.
going to perform your ceremony. I'm sorry. I'm not going to perform it. You're not
Hmm.
ready. This person's not ready. I foresee challenges down the road.
Yep.
I'm not going to be the one to counsel
And it
you.
makes you wonder, where's the spirit of discernment?
Yeah, there's no spirit of discernment. It's almost like it evaporated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the things that even though I love how beautiful faith is,
Hmm.
we have to realize that faith can't fix everything, you know? And
That
we've
is
already
true.
established that maybe a lot of people are staying together because of appearance purposes and because of you should turn the other cheek, you should forgive the way you want to be forgiven, which is noble. I believe it's very noble.
Hmm.
But faith can't fix everything.
I have a question. This is my question. If the church was to rethink its message around divorce, do you think that Christian couples would still have a lower divorce rate than non Christian couples?
Mm,
As a question to my community, to our community, if the church was supposed to rethink, and a lot of people will say that, hey, the church is not going to rethink its message around divorce because the
because it's
Bible,
scriptural. Yeah.
because it's scriptural. But meaning that if the stigma didn't come with it, if the stigma didn't come with it, if you weren't viewed as someone who commits the worst of sin after a divorce, if people knew that, hey, I'm a part of the church community, the Christian community, their view on divorce is biblical. They don't believe in divorce. However, if the couples or partners believe that they are not suitable for each other and they are faced with a lot of challenges that is worsening their faith and relationship with God as well as with each other, and they believe that the best way out is to set each other free, then we have no problem.
I don't believe that that would even have to be something that the church would even have to compromise on if preparation was something that we did heavily. The
Mm-hmm.
boot camp of preparation, how to choose a partner, what true dating is. You know, the world does a great job at influencing our youth, right?
Well, yeah.
Influencing us. I'm still somehow influenced by stuff that goes on around. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I try to feed myself the good stuff, to be
Right.
influenced by the good stuff. However, in the church, I think we could benefit from more boot camps around relationship in
Marriage.
general, just general relationship, how people interact with each other. Because
Right.
till the day we die, even if AI takes over tomorrow and machines get all our jobs, we are still going to have to relate, whether through computers or
Mm-hmm.
face to face.
Right.
So if we put some more effort,
Effort
some
and
more
emphasis.
emphasis on training people and preparing people for marriage and just relationships in
Yeah.
general, friendships,
And say no
then
when
we
you
would
need to
not
say
have to
no.
compromise on thus saith
Divorce.
the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Divorce is just not an option because guess what? We gave you everything.
Right.
So if you chose wrong, it's not like we didn't vet the person, you didn't vet the person, we didn't look through everything. It if the church and if people, because I don't want to place the blame on the church, it's not a blame game thing.
Yeah, it's not a
If
blame.
we do our due diligence
Mm-hmm.
and go through the process with steady heads, we will not have to ever have any regret or even think twice about ending a marriage.
Right.
So I
That
think
is true. You're right there, babe.
definitely,
You,
definitely.
yeah.
So the church can stand firm and judge whoever it wants to judge as nasty as it wants to judge,
Mm-hmm.
only if it plays a vital role in educating
Mm-hmm.
its members
Yeah.
on that. Because
Yeah.
it's like telling me, oh, I want you to make brick from straw. Like I can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible. How are we preparing these young people to actually go out there to do well? Because a lot of these couples that you see in the church, it's just a show. Some of them are very great role models, of course,
Yeah.
but some of them are just a show.
Yeah. It's
So
just,
and it can't just be like a one time a month thing where you just have couples come out together and they
yeah,
discuss the
couples
entire.
retreat.
It
It's,
needs to
is it
be,
even a month or quarter?
I don't even know, but it needs to
Yeah.
be something that is not a quarterly thing or
It's
a
just,
weekly.
yeah.
It needs to
And
be
not just for a
it
few days.
needs to be an everyday thing because we have relationships
You know what I
every
think?
day.
You know what one of my suggestions would be? You see that well truly AY, you know,
Mm.
I think that there should be a segment in AY for the young people surrounding dating and relationships.
Like 16 and up.
Yeah,
Could even start at 13 because honestly,
could, could start at
just
12,
start them off.
probably even 6 years old.
You could, no, for
Right?
real.
No, like for real, you know. But I think that they need to have a program there as well as you see youth camp. What's it called? It's youth camp, right?
I'm
When
not
they
sure.
have that youth camp, a part of that entire, I think it's for 1 week. It shouldn't only be based on sermons and spirituality, and it should
No.
also, you know, young people, Christian young people needs to start learning real life skills
Yes.
in the church.
Yes.
And some people will always say, "Oh, is that you can't blame the church or the church this and that." Listen, if I'm a part of a community, I should be able to bring value to them, and they should be able
And
to add
benefit from it.
value
Yeah.
to my life.
I believe
If
people.
I'm working in an
Mhm.
organization and they do not train me or equip me with the knowledge to carry out my roles and function, I am going to fail.
I think just as rigorous as they are about Bible workers, we need to have relationship workers.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, you
Yeah.
know. So it's not a thing where it's not a blame game. It's not, and people with this notion of, oh, you can't blame the church. Listen, again, I've said this before. If I am a part of the church, have a role, and the function of the church is not just spirituality. And if any individual who is a Christian believe that the only function the church has is to ensure that it helps to maintain or feed your spiritual life, then you need to go back and read your Bible and probably ask for your rebaptism. Serious. Because that's not the only function of the Bible.
Mhm. The church.
It's of the church. It encompasses the overall being of an individual. It looks at every aspect of your life. That's what Christianity, that's what spirituality. Let me not say Christianity because everybody is a Christian, right? But big up to the practicing Christians. But the church community was not established for only the spiritual aspect of an individual. It should cater to the whole being. The financial aspect of your life,
Oh yeah.
the spiritual aspect, the social aspect, and the health aspect. A lot of people, when you talk about you know, I don't want to get into it, but babe, I think we can end.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we can
You know,
end. And I think I had a few questions written down that I wanted to ask. You know,
ask them in the
but just
description.
yeah, but just to reiterate, we understand that Christian marriages have a lower divorce rate than non-Christian marriages, right? And that is something that data statistics has shown, right? However, there are many different factors that contributes to that, and we spoke about a number of them. We spoke about the faith, the knowledge, the biblical teachings, the premarital counseling. But at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily mean that because church marriages are not failing, are not
Doesn't mean that they're healthier in any
right.
way
That,
or
that doesn't.
better
Let
than
me
the
say,
secular
yeah. Let me say
marriage.
that over.
Yeah.
It does not imply that because church marriages have a lower divorce rate that they are healthier than secular non-Christian marriages.
That's right.
You know. So just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. A few questions that I would like to ask as we end. All right. Number one, and this is for our audience. Do you think faith makes a difference in how people handle conflict in marriages? Personally,
I believe it does. I
yeah.
believe it does.
And I want to hear from our supporters.
What do you think?
What do you think? Have you seen examples of faith, you know, faith saving or destroying a marriage? I think that
I
faith can save and destroy.
I think over spiritualization
Over
destroy.
spiritualization, yeah.
I believe over spiritualization destroys
Mm-hmm.
marriages,
Mm-hmm.
but faith can definitely be a good anchor to keep a marriage afloat.
You don't think it can be a double-edged sword?
Faith,
Mm-hmm.
faith in the most positive connotation is not going
The
to
most
ever
positive
be
sense.
in the most positive sense is not
Right.
going to ever be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
All right. Tell us what
it,
you think. All
yeah.
right. So, last question. Can secular couples learn anything from the Christian approach to commitment? That's a question to our viewers, to our supporters. All right. Tell us what you think. As usual, babe.
All right, as usual, please go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel if you've loved this discussion or liked the previous conversations. And we would love it if you would go ahead and share our content because it helps YouTube to know that this is valuable content and that people actually like it.
Right.
So please go ahead and share with someone you think that this conversation or any of the conversations we've had in the past would benefit.
All right. And we will see you guys for another one.